So how are you guys feeling this morning? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways thumb? Got all, okay. I was like, I got all thumbs up, which usually there's somebody who goes like this, and then I got one of these. So it's like, I think I'm okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Life is still a weird emotional roller coaster, I think. At least when I talk to my friends, I think I'm not alone in that, and you guys are nodding as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If she hops on, she can hop on. So today's class, we're going to do roughly half myofascial release, half moving, flowing, like a vinyasa flow class. And we're going to work towards camel pose. So we're going to use camel as this gentle, I'm going to call it a tester pose. So we'll do it pretty early first thing, really gentle. You don't have to go for the heels or anything. But we're going to do it, and then we'll do some myofascial release just to see how it feels. And we'll do that several times throughout class. So what that means is, with the balls today, we're going to be working in the front side of the body. And I know one of you told me you didn't like the front side of the body, so you're going to have options. You can use the balls. You can use the balls with a blanket over. That'll soften it a little bit. Or you can just use a blanket. So I'll give you options. I know for me, when I started using the balls on the front side of my body, the belly and the hips, I really didn't like it because I wasn't used to having anything touching me here. And so it can be uncomfortable. I would say a couple of things. The first thing is allow yourself to breathe and allow yourself to try and relax. And that might not happen the first breath. It might happen after 3 or 4 breaths, but you know your body. So if your body's talking to you in a way where it just is really painful or uncomfortable, please make your way off the balls, okay? I'm gonna trust you to do what feels best for you. Sound good? Yes? Okay, cool. It's so weird not being able to talk to you guys. So we're gonna start, you have a couple choices to start. If you're comfortable, you can sit on your heels. So you're sitting on your shins. That's not for everybody, so you can sit up on a block. And if you don't like any of that, you can just come to any comfortable seat. So if you're going to try sitting on the heels or on the block, just take a moment to see, could I sit here for the next couple of minutes? If you're already uncomfortable, just change your seat. No need to make yourself uncomfortable. The whole point here is just to be able to drop into focus. So close your eyes. Just take a couple breaths in and out through the nose. As you do that, just use the exhales to help you to soften and relax. Using the breath with the myofascial release balls can be really helpful to relax. So see if you can just start to cultivate that sense of ease here throughout the body with the breath. And take one more inhale through the nose. And a soft exhale out of the mouth. And then just take your fingertips behind you. You can spin the palms of the hands towards the body so you're just on the fingertips. And then maybe press down gently through the fingertips, lift up through the center of the chest to find an easy little back bend. And as you do that, just notice the front of the body, maybe the length down the belly, the front of the hips, maybe even the thighs if you're sitting up on your heels. And then just walk your hands back forward, make your way into tabletop. Tuck your toes under for a breath or two here. And then untuck the toes so you're on the tops of the feet. We'll take some cat-cow. Take an inhale, lengthen the chest forward, drop the belly. Exhale, press into the hands, curl the spine. Inhale, extend forward. Exhale, curl and round. Inhale, extend. And exhale, round. And then come back to a neutral spine. Just drop your forearms down to the mat. So elbows are under shoulders. We'll do the same thing here. On the inhale, lengthen the chest, drop the belly. You probably have less range of motion. And then exhale, press into the forearms and curl the spine. Two more like that. Inhale, lengthen, extend. Exhale, curl and round. Inhale, extend. And exhale, round. Then just come back to a neutral spine. Come back to the palms of the hands so you're in tabletop. And then reach for your blanket or your towel. So if you have one of these yoga blankets, you can just take the long folded edge of the blanket. And you're gonna make a really tiny roll. So I want you to start really small. I'm just gonna take that edge over like one time. So it's just a tiny roll. And then we're gonna come onto the belly and place that roll between the belly button and the pubic bone. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Find a place that works for you, somewhere between the belly button and the pubic bone. And then you can decide if that roll feels too big, go ahead and unroll it a little bit. You have the option to lay all the way flat, stack the hands, and take the forehead to the hands. Or if you prefer, you can be in a sphinx position, so you're on your forearms. And then just notice what it feels like to have the prop underneath your belly. On your next inhale, just see if you can let the belly naturally expand and push the blanket away. And on the exhale, just let the belly soften. Inhale, push the blanket away. Exhale, soften and relax. Inhale, push the blanket away. And exhale, soften and relax. And just take a couple more breaths right here. Notice what it feels like now that you've had a little bit of time in the shape. Maybe you find it's a little easier to relax. And then very gently, just make your way up off of that blanket. So you can come back into your tabletop. Take your blanket off to the side. So as we move through some of the next myofascial release techniques as we go through class, you always have the option to kind of do that same thing with the blanket. Take a couple rounds of cat-cow here just on your own, and notice how the belly and the front side of the body feel as you take that movement. Maybe there's a little bit of warmth or softness in the belly. And then sit your hips back, come into a child's pose. Even notice how the belly feels in this child's pose. Maybe it rests on the thighs or between the thighs. And make your way up into tabletop. Reach for one of your yoga blocks. I'm gonna do a quick little thing in the armpit here. So I'm not gonna look like I'm mirroring you, but we're gonna start on your right side. So coming down onto the right side, taking that block into the armpit, you can rest the right elbow on the mat and rest your head in your right hand. You can decide if your legs are bent or straight. So that block is right in the armpit. Top of the block's kind of the top side of the armpit. Bottom is towards the rib cage, top of the rib cage. And then just start to rock forward towards the front of the chest. And then rock back. If having just the block is too much, you can rest a blanket on it. Block forward and rock back. And then this time when you rock forward, you're gonna stay there. So maybe you take your left forearm down to support you. If it feels okay, you can bring your forehead all the way down to rest on the backs of the hands. Sometimes I like to use a second block to support my head here. And then just take a couple breaths. So you should have that block resting in the front of the chest, right around the front of the armpit and that pec region. For most of us, this can feel pretty tender. So notice as you breathe, can you just allow your body to relax on the exhale? And then slowly come back to the center of the armpit. We'll just make our way to the other side. I'm gonna flip to the opposite side of the mat, but you can just roll over if you want. You might be facing away from your computer, but that's okay. So coming to the left armpit. And then once you land there, start to rock forward and then rock back. Really nice and easy movement, rock forward and then rock back. And then take it forward, you're gonna hold there again, maybe use the block or your hands to support the forehead. So you're on the front of the chest, noticing how this side feels compared to the other side. For me, one side usually feels tighter than the other. See if as you hold here, you can just allow that tissue under the block to soften. And then make your way back through center. And then you can take your props off to the side, come back into tabletop. Once you're in tabletop, just pop onto your left fingertip. So you're doming your left hand. And then walk the left hand across the mat to the front right corner of the mat. So you're reaching to the front right corner, you got it. And then take your left hip crease back towards your left heel. So you can drop to the right forearm. It's kind of like you're taking this funky side bend child's pose, getting length in the left side of the body. And then come back up through tabletop, take that to the other side, walk the right fingertips to the front left corner. Take the right hip crease to the right heel, maybe drop to the left arm. transition back into tabletop. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, come to your first downward facing dog. And once you're there, you can just take any movement that feels natural this morning. And then bring yourself forward into plank. Just drop your knees to the mat, modified plank, and lower all the way down to your belly. Just take an easy cobra, lift the head and the shoulders. Notice how the front of the belly and the hips feel. And then lower everything down, press through tabletop to downward facing dog. And we'll take one more like that, come forward into plank. You can keep the knees lifted or lower them, come all the way down to your belly. Lift your head and your shoulders for cobra. Press through tabletop to downward facing dog. Then drop your knees to the mat for tabletop. Walk your hands back to your knees so you can come all the way up to kneeling, shoulders stacked over hips. Just bring the hands to the low back, spin the fingers down. We're gonna take a really, really gentle camel pose. So remember, this is the tester pose. So just inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, maybe just the tiniest little back bend. Maybe gaze goes up, maybe it stays forward. Just notice how the front of the belly feels, the front of the hips, maybe even the thighs, the top of the leg. And then come back up through neutral, bring your hands to the mat, and come back to downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands, forward fold front of the mat. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Exhale, hands down to the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, plant your hands, right foot back for a lunge, right knee down to the mat. Inhale, arms come up by the ears. Exhale, just hold it there. Take one more inhale. Exhale, hands bring the foot, bring your back foot forward, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Exhale, fold right back forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, plant your hands, left foot back, left knee down. Inhale, arms by the ears. Exhale, hold it there. Take one more inhale. Exhale, hands frame the foot, back foot forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, all the way up to standing. Exhale, fold right back forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, plant your hands, right foot back for a lunge. Stay on the ball of the foot this time. Come up into crescent and reach your arms up by your ears. And just hold in this crescent, noticing in the front side of the body. So right side of the belly, across the front of the right hip, all the way down to the front of the thigh. Notice if it feels soft or if there's tension. Take one more inhale. Exhale, bring your back foot forward, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale all the way up to standing. Exhale, fold back forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, plant your hands, left foot back for a lunge. And the ball of the foot come up into crescent again. Just holding here, noticing the front of the left side of the body, belly, hip, thigh. Take one more inhale. Exhale, hands bring the foot, back foot forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up to standing. Exhale, fold back forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, your way to down dog. You can take a vinyasa or step it straight back. I love how your pets are right underneath you in down dog. The dogs want to play. Take one more breath here. And then drop your knees to the mat and reach for your myofascial release balls. So for these, we're gonna work with both balls at the same time, but not in your bag. So if they're in a bag, just take them out. And then I'm just gonna have you mark the locations that we're gonna do. We're gonna do 3 different spots right now, but once we come onto the belly, it's hard to see. So if you come to kneeling for a second, we're just gonna kind of make sure we have a good sense for where the balls are gonna go once we come to the belly. So find your hip bones. You can just put the balls right on the center or the front of your hip bones. And then take them in towards the midline of your body, just like an inch. So they're gonna roll right off the hip bone into that soft tissue. It's almost like there's a little divot right there. So that's gonna be spot number 1. I'll walk you through it when we get there, but I just wanted you to kind of get a sense for where that is. And then spot number 2, find your belly button. Take the ball below the belly button like an inch. And then balls will go away from each other towards the edges of the body about an inch. So they're about 2 inches away from each other, an inch below the belly button. That's spot number 2. I think you guys got it. And then spot number 3, find your pubic bone. Take the ball up an inch above the pubic bone, and then out to the side about an inch. So it's a little lower than that first one. You guys look pretty good. All right, so let's give it a shot. Remember, you can use the blanket on the balls if the balls feels too intense, or you can just roll up the blanket and put it in the same spot we're putting the balls. So make your way onto your belly. So we'll take that first spot. You can just start with your right side, find your right hip bone, and then take that ball towards the midline of the body so it rolls off the hip bone into that soft tissue. And then do the same thing with your left side. And you decide, don't worry about perfection. Again, just see if you find a place that you can stick with. Make sure you're on soft tissue, not bone. And then like we were on the blanket earlier, you can bring your forehead to your stacked hands, or you can be in a sphinx position with your arms. And like we did with the blanket, take an inhale, see if you can push the balls away. And exhale, allow the belly to relax. Inhale, push the balls away. Exhale, soften. Inhale, expand. And exhale, soften. Let's take a couple more breaths right here. Noticing as you allow the muscles to relax, the balls will start to snuggle up and in a little bit. So maybe they get a little deeper into the tissue. It's not mandatory, but it might just happen. And then very softly, just remove the balls for a moment. Lay on your belly in any way that feels comfortable, maybe turning your head to one side. Just notice how that area feels now. Maybe it feels warmer, maybe it feels like there's blood flow. And then we'll come to that second position. So find the belly button with one ball, roll beneath the belly button about an inch, and then take that ball, let's say over to the right about an inch. You're gonna do the same thing with the second ball, find the belly button, go down an inch to the left an inch. And again, find a place that you feel like you can stick with. If this feels intense, you can always go for a blanket over the balls. And then again, you can rest the forehead down, or you can be in your Sphinx position with your arms. Take an inhale, expand the belly into the balls. Exhale, allow the belly to soften. Inhale, expand. Exhale, relax. Good. Inhale, expand. And exhale, relax. You have a couple more breaths right here. Just seeing if you can try not to resist the balls. I know for me, this was not something I liked. It took some practice. I actually like it now. And then very slowly, you can remove the balls. Just come back onto your belly again with no props. Maybe you turn your head to the opposite side and take a couple breaths. And then we'll take that third point. So taking one ball to the pubic bone, go above the pubic bone about an inch, and then over to the right about an inch. And then do the same thing with the other ball, pubic bone, above an inch to the left an inch. Just like the other ones, you can be flat or you can be in Sphinx. I'm actually not going to cue breath on this one like I did on the first two, but maybe on your own, you inhale, expand the belly, and exhale, let it soften. See if it's something you can start to cultivate on your own, especially if it's something that you find helpful, you could do this on your own. Just a couple more breaths. And then carefully remove the balls. You can just take them off to the side. One more time, just resting on the belly in any way that feels comfortable. Noticing how those 3 points feel. Maybe you just feel in general more energy around the belly, maybe softness. And then bring your hands back by the sides of the rib cage. Press yourself to table. Just take 2 rounds of cat-cow here on your own. Noticing along the front of the belly, if you have more freedom as you drop into cow. After your second exhale, just return to neutral and tabletop. Walk your hands back towards your knees. Come to kneeling again and take the hands to the low back. We'll take that gentle camel again. Lift the center of the chest. Maybe an easy back bend with the gaze going up. Ooh, I notice it just feels nicer for me. Usually I feel pretty tight here. So just notice how the belly feels, the front of the hips. And then come back upright, take your hands back to the mat for table and come back into downward facing dog. Take your right leg up and back. Bring the foot between the hands, drop the back knee down, and just bring the arms up by the ears. So coming to a low lunge and holding here. And then bring the hands down to frame the foot, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Twist the torso to the right, reach your right arm up. We're gonna twist to the right. Bring your right hand down to frame your foot. You can stay in the lunge or straighten your right leg just for a breath. Not a very long hold, just giving your right leg a little break. And then rebend your right knee, spin your back heel down, and cartwheel your arms up to warrior two. Feel the openness in the front of the body across the chest, spanning up through the belly to the top of the head. And then straighten your right leg, reverse triangle, right arm up and back. And then come back to warrior two. Cartwheel your hands down to frame your front foot. Step yourself back to plank or modified plank, your choice. Lower all the way down to your belly. Lift your head and your shoulders for a low cobra. Maybe you stay there. Maybe you start to press into the hands, straighten the arms for either a high cobra or an upward facing dog. And then come into downward facing dog. And then take the left leg up and back. Bring the foot between the hands, drop the back knee down, come into the low lunge, reach your arms up by your ears. Your back knee can be down on this one unless you did crescent on the first side. And then bring your hands down to frame your front foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, twist to the left, reach your left arm up. Bring your left hand back to the mat. You can stay in the lunge or opt to straighten your left leg for a breath. Rebend your left knee, spin your back heel down, cartwheel your arms up, warrior two. Straighten your left leg, reverse triangle, left arm up and back. And then come back to warrior two. Cartwheel your hands down to frame your front foot. Step yourself to plank or modified plank. Lower all the way down to the belly. Start with a low cobra, lift head and shoulders. Just take a breath there. And then maybe a higher cobra or up dog, straightening the arms, maybe pressing into the tops of the feet if you'd like. And that length along the belly. And then come into downward facing dog. You have 5 breaths. Maybe it's down dog, maybe it's child's pose, your choice. Knees down to the mat. This is the last myofascial release thing that we're gonna do. So if you have a bag for your balls, I just find it easier for this one to put the balls in the bag just so they don't get away from you. But if you don't have a bag, that's okay. You can make it work. So we're gonna work the front of the thighs here. Actually, I'll show you why you guys are organizing your balls. We're gonna start right above your knee. So you'll have the balls sort of horizontally next to one another, right above the knee, and then we're gonna start to work up the thigh. So you'll come onto your belly. Let's start on the right leg. So place those balls right above the knee. So make sure you're not on the kneecap, that you're on soft tissue. I like to actually bring my left leg out bent, but you can see what works best for you. So it takes a little bit of just figuring out. And then you come onto your forearms, so you lift your hips up and your belly up. And then start to roll up and down, so up towards the hip, just a couple inches. And then back down towards the top of the knee. So we're not rolling the whole thigh. Let's say we're doing the bottom third, roll up a little bit towards the hip. And down towards the knee. And then just find a place within there that you feel like you can hold. And let the leg be heavy. I should have said you could use a foam roller if you want. I don't know if any of you guys have it. Now you can be still here. If you want, you can lift your right foot and bend your leg a little bit, like you're pulling your right heel towards your butt, but you might not be able to lift it very high. And then lower it down. So sometimes for me that can be too intense. So if it is, you can be still, or you can try that bending the leg, pulling the heel in, and then lowering it down. And then just do one more. Lower the foot, relax. Take one more breath in this spot. And then start to roll the balls up towards the hips. So think about the center third of your thigh here, between the hip bone and the knee, and do that same rolling up and down. And you might find different textures or different tenseness in different parts of the thigh. For me, this is pretty a thick, tense spot of my thigh. So find a spot you can land on, somewhere in that center third. And then you decide if you want to pull the heel in towards the butt here. I'm not going to do it, it's too intense for me here. You can explore it and see if you like it. Take about 3 passes of that if you're moving the leg, and then let the foot rest down. And then we'll move up to the top third of the thigh, doing that same up and down motion. So towards the hip bone, but not at the hip bone, staying away from the bone. Finding one more spot on this side where you can be still. And then again, if you want to do that, pulling the heel in, you can explore that. It's interesting, you can like feel the muscles moving beneath the balls. And after about 3 passes of that, just relax. And then you can just remove the balls, come to laying on your belly again, any place that feels comfortable, and just notice your right thigh versus your left thigh. Mine feel pretty different. Maybe yours do, maybe they don't. Maybe you bend the knees and take a little windshield wiper of the feet side to side. And then we'll take the left side, so extend the legs. Take the balls above the left knee. Again, maybe you bend that right leg next to you and come onto your forearms. And then just roll the bottom third of that thigh up and down. And then find a spot where you can land. Maybe you pull that left heel in towards the butt several times. Maybe this leg feels different. Maybe you could do it on one side and not the other. Once you've taken that movement several times, relax the leg. And then move the balls up to the center third of that thigh and start to roll up and down. Find a spot where you feel like you can land that's not too tender. Maybe you pull that heel in several times. Maybe you're like me and this part of your thigh just feels too tight to make any movement. Let the foot relax if you're moving. And then last time, roll the balls up to the top third. Roll up and down a couple passes. And then find a place where you can land and maybe you pull that heel in several times. And then just let the foot relax. Take one more breath. And then remove your props. You can take them out of the way. Come back onto your belly and just notice how the right and the left thigh feel now. Maybe you take that little windshield wiper of the knees or the feet. Can't really windshield wiper your knees in this position. That wouldn't work very well. And then re-straighten your legs. Press yourself up into tabletop. Walk your hands back to your knees. You come to kneeling. We'll come back to your gentle camel pose. So hands to the low back. Lift the chest. Take an easy little back bend, but notice now how the front of the belly all the way down through the front of the hip and the thighs feel. For me, I feel more warmth, more looseness, but maybe you feel something different. There's no wrong way to feel. And then come all the way back up. Return your hands to the mat and come back to downward facing dog. One last set of standing poses here. Take your right leg up and back. Bring the foot by the right thumb, spin the left heel down. Come into warrior one, take your arms by your ears. And then interlace the fingers behind the back. As you do that, notice how the front of the left hip feels. And then take an inhale, lift your chest, feel that length along the front side of the body. And on the exhale, if you'd like, hinge forward for humble warrior. And then come back up to warrior one, reach your arms by your ears. Just plant your hands and go straight to down dog. We'll go straight to the other side. Take the left leg up and back. Bring the foot by the left thumb, spin your right heel down. Warrior one. Noticing again the front of the right hip, feel that spaciousness, and then take the hands and release them behind the back. Take an inhale, lift the chest, feel that softness along the front line, and then exhale, hinge yourself forward. And then come back up to warrior one, take your arms by your ears, bring your hands down to frame your foot and step yourself to downward facing dog. And then drop your knees so you're in tabletop. We're gonna take a couple more rounds of camel. This time, if you wanna bring blocks next to the outside of the ankles, you could do that. I like the tallest setting of my blocks. So we'll take 3 rounds here, starting with the hands on the low back, just like we've been doing. So we'll keep them there this first round. Take an inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, just take an easy little back bend. And then come all the way back up. Just sit back on your heels. Hands can rest on the top of the thighs. Take an inhale. And an exhale. One more breath, inhale. And exhale. Come back to kneeling. This time hands can stay on the low back, or maybe you reach at the same time with both hands to your blocks. So take an inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, take it back. Maybe the hands stay there. Maybe you reach at the same time with right and left hand for the blocks. Do 2 breaths wherever you are. Don't worry where your hands are. There's no goal here. I personally like my hands on my low back for this pose. It just feels nicer. Less strain. Come all the way back up. Come to sitting on the heels. Just take a couple breaths on your own. So this last round, you can have hands on low back. Hands can come to blocks, or maybe they come to heels. But again, don't worry about it. Do what feels best for you. Come all the way back up to kneeling. Take the hands to the low back. Take an inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, just softly go wherever it feels best for you. Noticing the whole front line, belly, front of the hips, thighs. Ooh, I like all the variations. Come all the way back up. Come to sitting on the heels, and actually just take your hips off to the side so you can come back to a comfortable cross-leg position. Once you land there, just stay upright in this neutral position. Close your eyes and just check in. Maybe the eyes stay closed. You can reach the arms up by the ears. Take a gentle twist over to your right. And then come back to center, reach both arms up, take your fingertips in front of you, maybe a gentle walk of the hands forward into an easy fold. And then walk the hands back. Just change the cross of the legs so the opposite shin comes in front. And then just reach the arms by the ears and take a twist over to the left. Come back to center, reach both arms up, fingertips in front of you, gentle walk forward. It's nice and easy. Noticing in this fold if the belly feels soft or free. And then walk your hands back, lift your chest. Just make your way all the way onto your back and hug your knees towards your chest. Keep your right knee hugged in, extend the left leg onto the mat. And then just change sides, hug the left knee in, extend the right leg out. And then hug the right knee back in, maybe holding there or making your way into happy baby for a gentle rock side to side. Maybe notice if you even have a little more freedom in the hip area here in happy baby. Then hug your knees towards your chest. Give yourself a final little hug. And release your legs. Find your way into Shavasana. And just notice how you feel. I think the more you use these myofascial release techniques, just like any other part of your yoga practice, whether it be breath or meditation, it's easier to drop into relaxation. And every day isn't perfect. Some days are easier than others. But notice as you settle in for these final couple of minutes, if you're able to just allow your entire body to soften, starting at that belly area and radiating out through the legs to the feet, from the arms to the fingertips, all the way up through the neck and the head. Start to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circle your ankles and wrists. Reach your arms by your ears, big stretch. Roll off to your favorite side, pause there, eyes closed. And then use your top hand to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. Place your right hand over your heart and stack your left hand on your right hand. Just keep your eyes closed. There's so many things I love about this myofascial release work, but one of them is it really allows us to listen to the messages that our bodies send. It takes practice, but it's learning that difference between pain and tenderness, or feeling that softening and relaxation. It just teaches us to really listen and to tune in, just like the rest of our yoga practices do. So I have a little mantra, if you'd like to repeat it to yourself. It simply says, everything I need is within me. Feel that gentle beat of your heart, knowing that you have everything you need inside of you if you just learn to tune into yourself. Bring your hands up to heart center, press the palms into one another. Thank you for joining me this morning. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.